everybody. I'm Anna Hagan. This is Next in Sales, a brand new Next Level podcast. Today, we've got Jason Lally here with us. Jason is currently the EVP of Revenue, as well as the CRO at Energy Wyze. Jason, thanks so much for being here today.
It is my pleasure.
Well, I would love if you could give a little bit of background on yourself, just for our viewers to get to know you a little bit better, and then we'll get the conversation rolling.
Wow. Okay. A little bit of background on myself. I'm assuming we mean professionally, but I'll give you a little flavor as well. So I've been in renewable energy for almost 14 years. Very passionate about, I'm passionate about being passionate, basically.
Yeah.
Find something that gives you a feel-good attribute and work hard at it. And, I guess what I'm saying is you can, anyone, myself included, and I just keep this out in front of me, can work on things that you think matter and find a way to make money doing those same things.
It's amazing.
So my background is lots of renewable energy, but pretty much sales and sales leadership my entire adult life. I entered the workforce when I was 14 years old. I'm what they call a grinder. I work hard and long hours, or have in the past. That's not always the right way to do it, but it is who I am. And I was a touring musician when I was younger. I had record deals and things like that. And so I've got some flavorful stuff to talk about, which is always good when you're trying to find connection
That's
points.
really cool.
Anything that is any kind of, I think anything that creates an opportunity for synergistic relationships. Often the conversion point of that is, personal experience. So you share something about yourself. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited that you're here with us today. Big reason I wanted you on here is obviously you've got tons of experience in sales leadership, from working at Tesla quite a few years ago to now being both an EVP of revenue and a CRO. Obviously got a very busy schedule, but going back to the beginning of your sales career, what was something that you really wish that you had known back then, and when and how did you learn that?
It's a great question. Anna, can I call you Anna?
Of course you can.
How real do you want me to be?
I want you to be as real as the real Jason Lally would be.
Okay, the real Jason Lally will tell you this. And wow. Okay, so in order to take you forward, I need to take you back. Okay.
Perfect. Let's do it.
So I was raised in foster care. Something I'm very passionate about is helping people who are raised in foster care. And the reason is I was raised in foster care, and I'm not going to tell any horror stories, although I do have them. But what I will tell you is often the way that I grew up in that situation and my peers at the time, you learn early on that the best thing you can do is create a character for yourself that is not yourself as a way of protecting yourself. In sales, it's the complete opposite. The only way to be good at sales is to be authentic. The only way let me scratch that. You can be good and lie to people, but if you want to be great, if you want to be a master, and I am a master salesperson and sales leader, you have to be completely authentic. So I've learned that in many ways, but I think the best example I have for you is a concrete example, which is, I can't mention the name of the person, very famous pop star. Anyway, I was involved in their solar project. And we ended up winning the job, and we did the job. And as always, especially on larger jobs, I make a point of saying to the person, which in this case was the manager of the pop star, "Why did you choose us?" And he thought about it, and he said, well, and I interjected, "Well, it must be that you like me so much," because I could feel there had been tension between us when we've been talking at certain times. And he said, "Actually, I don't really like you." And I laughed, and I said, "Why is that?" And he goes, "Well, you have too much energy for me. You're too high energy." And I said, "Okay, well, that makes the question even more important. Why did you choose us?" And he said, "I did choose you and your company, but I did it based on the fact that you were the only one I felt like I could trust, because I knew there was no way you were pretending to be something that you're not. And you never lied to me." So, he saw 6 companies and he chose our company, and we were not the cheapest. But my lesson in that, which I had already known, I think instinctively, but the lesson that I brought forward from it was, you don't even have to have people like you, but they must trust you.
Yeah.
So be authentic or else.
I love that. One of the things that I really hold dear to my my heart is being authentic and being intentional. And I think that a lot of times when we think about the stereotypical salesperson, I think a lot of people go to that idea of, a used car salesman who is going to say anything to you to really get you to buy in. So I really love that you brought forward that opinion of the importance of authenticity and intentionality in your career, especially when it comes to sales. And kind of bouncing off of that, what is maybe the most creative way that you've ever been able to close a deal, obviously using that authenticity portion?
Most creative way. Okay, I think I have one for you. So I was already at my quota, but I wanted to set a record, not for my team or for the company, for myself. I wanted to have the most sales I could have in 1 month, and I was already tied with myself. Hint to all the salespeople out there: the competition is with yourself. So I wanted to get that, and it was 8:58, somewhere around there. Like 2 minutes before I know it's too late to be calling a customer. I had been texting back and forth with him, and he had texted me and called me after 8:00. This is going back about 10 years now. And so I felt okay with it. So I called him. As I called him, I was on the freeway and I was driving by a restaurant. I think it's called like Love's or Lovey's or something. It's kind of like it's kind of like a Denny's kind of vibe, I guess. So I pulled into the parking lot and I called him, and I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to push this one over the finish line. But I just said, okay, so what's stopping this from being a no-brainer? And he says, well, no, it's not that. It's there's this, that. And I had already answered his questions. So really what it told me is kind of what I believe with most people when they don't make big decisions. It's because of a fear of commitment. And so then it really wasn't about sales. And so the creative part came in when I said, listen, I'm trying to beat my record. Your sale would beat my record. You have the contract in front of you. It's
right there.
You have legitimate questions. And he starts laughing a little bit. And he said, you're going to ask me to sign it? I go, actually, I'm not going to ask you to sign it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make you an offer. He laughs again. I said, have you eaten dinner? No. Okay, I'm at this place. It's not far. It's about maybe 5 miles from your house, 6 miles from your house. I said, you meet me here for dinner. We sit down. If at the end of the dinner you don't feel 100% sure that you want to sign it, I'll have bought you dinner. I'll shake your hand. I'll also explain to you why you made a good choice in not moving forward from my perspective. And hopefully we'll be friends for a long time, or at least, acquaintances in good standing. And he's like, you know what? I'll take you up on that offer, because we had been nice to each other on the phone. So he comes down, he meets me for dinner. We had dinner. First off, when he shows up, we order food. He's a little awkward. I'm not. I don't know.
Right.
I don't have that. So we order our food. We're sitting there, we're eating. He's eating, waiting. And finally he says, so when are you going to do your sales pitch? And I said, I'm not doing a sales pitch. He said, you're not doing a sales pitch? I said, no. Let's talk about music. I love music. Music's like the thing that drives me more than anything in the world. And I explained to him why, and explained to him, talked about my favorite music. He talked about his favorite bands. I told him like stuff that I knew about those bands. And we sat there for about an hour and a half having a nice meal. Yeah. And then when we were done, I said, that's it, I'm done. And he's like, so what? I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. And I said, you're supposed to just know that, that I made a connection with you, and you either believe that or not. And then you have to decide whether this is the right decision for you. And it actually has nothing to do with me. What it has to do with me is, do you trust me if you have made that decision to carry this project forward and to do right by you? Do you think I'll answer your phone calls? Do you think I'll continue to respond to your texts after you sign the paperwork? So I got in the car and I got the notification that he had signed the contract. Sorry for that story being long, but
no,
good one.
I think it's a great example of, you have to be authentic when you're doing sales. You absolutely have to, because it again goes back to, they have to trust you. They have to know that you're not in it just for themselves. Like for me, when we're recruiting, I genuinely want a hiring manager to call and say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this person to join our team. This is going to be the best addition to our team. This is exactly what we need. They have to trust you.
Yep.
It's the most important thing.
But I would also say, I'm going to interject here though, just because I don't know who all is going to see this, so I want to interject for those other folks. If you don't feel like you can make a connection to what we're saying, and you are using a critical eye and unflinching honesty within yourself, don't feel bad. What we're talking about is much harder to do than to say you will do, because in order to do it, you have to have faith that you are as good as you tell people you are. You have to have faith that it'll be okay if you don't get the sale. And faith is something that is, it's a feeling. You don't get to base it on an actual physical thing. So, that is harder to do than it sounds. And I have seen some of the most authentic people get thrown off their game and feel uncomfortable and revert to old behaviors and become, inauthentic very quickly. So it is a progress, not perfection mindset. Don't try to be perfect. And if you haven't figured out how to master this yet, it takes time. Just keep at it and keep reminding yourself to be yourself, and that people will like you even, but mostly respect you if you are yourself.
Yep. And perfectionism is overrated, honestly. Yeah. People want to see the humanity in you, and they want to see that you mess up and that you own up to those mistakes. Because that's what really counts. And then kind of even going back to what I was just talking about in terms of hiring as a sales leader, do you think that quality hiring in sales is becoming more or less difficult, especially when considering the onset of remote environment? Like, does it make it harder to compete?
Well, I think that's like 3 questions.
Okay, fair enough. Let's start with, do you think quality hiring in sales is getting more or less difficult?
It's getting more difficult every day. In order to change that, we need to have we're going to have a societal epiphany, I think. I think people are going to have to understand that during the worst depression so far that this country's seen in my lifetime, I think that was around 2008, 2009, somewhere around there, it was sales that kept our economy going. And if we are, in fact, heading into another recession, by the way, I don't believe we are. That's a conversation for another day. But we're still going to feel the pain, and it is inevitable that it will happen again. So if we don't start to own the fact that salespeople are important, then it's going to continue to get harder and harder, because these are, overlooked people. Just like when I was a kid, the idea of me walking around with a construction hat and construction guy costume on, oh, that's cute. But then all of a sudden, when I was like a teenager, it's like, I don't want to do that. Right? Well, you like running water? Think a plumber. Like electricity? Think electrician. And, they get paid for what they do, but there's something about, certain aspects of society that we deem better or worse than other aspects as far as jobs go. And sales is one of those things where I love salespeople, and I say it openly and honestly always. You mentioned used car salespeople. I've met some great used car salespeople, and they're the ones who literally have to deal with that every day, right?
Right.
And how do you overcome that? You want to find a really good salesperson, find someone that's done that for 2 years. Now, if they've done it for 5 years, well, you might want to question why they did it for that long, because it's a heck of a grind, kind of like door knockers. I feel the same way. If they can work 1099, I've done it. I did it for a year. If you can do not door knocking, but 1099 work, if you can do 100% commission and make a good living, then you do in fact rock. However, it's a super grind. So if I find someone that's done that for a year or two, it's always very impressive. And I love having those conversations, because talk about faith. You have to completely believe in your ability to make that work. But when you see kind of what's coming, how many jobs are going to be done by AI, et cetera, again, conversation for another day. I can easily see how people would think, well, we won't need salespeople. Yeah, that's not true.
No.
People are always going to be more comfortable with a human connection they are than with a computerized connection. Anytime
Absolutely.
you're not buying something over the counter at Walmart or Target or whatever, anytime you actually have to make a big purchase, you're going to want someone to help you through that process. You're going to want that. It's even if it's just, I want a concierge experience. Fine, great. Find a salesperson that can give you that. But the salesperson's job, their job is to be the area expert. Their job is to make you feel safe as they walk, or at least, if nothing else, give you psychological safety as you work through the finer points. So I guess what I'm saying is it's harder to find people like that because too many people at the top, and you know who you are, by the way, and I'm a big enough deal now where I don't have to deal with you. People at the top are too often willing to say, look at salespeople like they're numbers on a spreadsheet, like they're expendable. They're not expendable. The best salesperson isn't the one who gets the highest, amount of sales every month. But that's the misconception. The best salesperson is the one that offers the best service while hitting the numbers they need to hit to make the company money so the company can exist and make themselves money so they can take care of their friends.
The one who the clients trust the most.
Bingo.
Yeah. And I think, how do you think that remote culture is impacting that as well, from not only a standpoint of hiring and making it maybe more difficult to compete, but how is sales being affected by that remote environment where you're not going in person to meet with clients?
I think it really depends on, okay, so again, there's kind of two questions there, or at least two questions I want to answer there. So the first part being is how is it being affected? Well, like anything else, when the paradigm shifts, right? Anything else when technology comes along and shows us a different, not necessarily better, but a different way to do things. Now, short story, I was with a company that I won't mention. They're not that awesome. Sorry. That's why I moved on. But I created a sales team and then COVID happened. And what I realized, and the key here, and this is for you sales managers out there, the key there was to figure out, how do I translate this aha moment that I have to the sales team so they understand, like, not only is the world not ending, but I've got an interesting idea for you. And the interesting idea was this. Now that people are going to be at home, even though we're all kind of freaked out by it, this was right in the beginning of the lockdown, they're going to have more time. They're going to need human connection even more. So in a way, you're going to have more of a captive audience than you did before. You just have to make sure that you find a way to quickly bridge that gap. And bridging that gap is tricky. And the best way to do it, I think, is just to be honest, as we talked about, but also sharing a piece of yourself. Maybe it's not the best idea to tell them about when your dog died when you were 12 and everyone was crying, because that's not a good way to kind of talk about business. But little thing that you can share with somebody, that normally when you would walk in a home, for instance, you would look around and you'd say, okay, well, this person, they got Lakers stuff everywhere. If I'm not a basketball fan, I'm not going to pretend like I am, but I might say, wow, so you're a big Lakers fan, huh? And then wait, and then you have the conversation. It's a lot harder on Zoom, right? You're only going to have what's in the frame, and a lot of times the frame isn't even real. Mine is real, by the way. So the background isn't necessarily something that you can, take that mental image of and remember to reference it. And you're not referencing it to trick people. You're referencing it so you have points of reference, things to talk about, because then they'll feel more comfortable and you can talk about business. So on one hand,
just getting to know people.
Correct. I think it's hard to, I think if you're going to interview people to hire for these remote positions, I think the interview process needs to change as well, right? So I'm listening to you, Anna. Now, granted, you're asking the questions, but I'm kind of driving the car however the heck I want. If I were, interviewing you, for instance, what would come to mind? I'd say, well, Anna's camera ready. Like, she knows how to look at the camera. She's not looking at herself. She's looking at me, right? It's a little distinction, but I notice you doing it, and I'm doing it for the most part as well. Every once in a while, I might check myself out and go, yeah, my white frame's looking popping. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
Right. So, because we do that, it's normal. I noticed that you have a really cool sweater on, right? I think it's American flag.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Well, I love America. See, bam. And all of it and everything that's in it, by the way. Okay. Warts and all, as they say. When you're interviewing people, making that, like, can you not jump through the screen and give someone a jump scare, but can you in fact connect with somebody in a digital platform so they feel like are actually in your home office or your living room or whatever, because remember, they are inviting you into their virtual
Right.
world, but it probably still feels like their actual home.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Did that
Um,
answer some of the question?
Absolutely, it did.
Okay.
And to kind of just segue from that, obviously, as you mentioned, you've been in sales leadership for the majority of your adult career. When it comes to sales leadership, I think there's a lot of people who are trying to get into that space and are having trouble maybe getting started or finding the right place for them to do that. But what is maybe the most common mistake that you've seen people make when they make that transition into leadership for the first time?
I want to be thoughtful here. Give me a moment.
Take your time.
I think I know the biggest mistake is trying to replicate your own success onto others, like you're imprinting upon them. That's not realistic.
Yeah.
And you'll find yourself getting frustrated and you won't understand. And you're going to say the right words because you've read the right books, and you're going to say and kind of look like you know what you're doing. But the reality on the inside, you're not going to know what you're doing, because you're basically saying, why can't you just be me? The way I
Right.
was when I was so impressive that somebody gave me an opportunity to go into leadership.
Right, because everyone has different personalities, and they're what's going to work for one person in a selling environment is not going to work for everyone in a selling environment. And I think, you know, from personal experience, I think the best managers are those that are able to take a step back and say, what does this person need from me? How can I help them level up in their own way, as opposed to what would work for me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that the best, I'll say a few things. Number one, two of the best interviews I've ever had were the worst employees I've ever hired. And I will never make the mistake of making a team leader or a manager if they don't have the other core competencies, which is very
Mm-hmm.
easy to do when someone says, look, I'm your leader. I've got this. Everybody knows I'm the best and I want this thing. Right. And now I've learned where it's like, well, okay, we're going to have a separate conversation and we'll find out if you're the right person for that thing. Because again, it's like, why are people sales leaders more often than not? And I'm saying this with peace and love, peace and love. I'm saying this as a positive because they're super selfish.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people are at the top of the leaderboard, because they're selfish. They either want more money or they want more, accolades, whatever the case may be. There's nothing wrong with that. It's great. Every single person, yourself included in it, is the center of the universe. And the rest of us are just satellites.
Absolutely.
So it's okay. Own that piece, right? But that's not generally the person that I want to lead others. The person that I want to lead others is the person that understands that servant leadership isn't something you read in a book.
I love that term.
It isn't something that you talk about. It's something that you show. You show business, people. You got to show it. You got to show your business. And I won't mention any names, but I remember somebody, and I see this every once in a while on LinkedIn, and I cringe. And I remember someone who was very fond of showing the photograph or the drawing of the person in the front pulling the heavy stuff with the team behind them, and then the other one was the guy with the whip behind them, and leaders lead by blah 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 blah. Why am I giving it all this blah blah blah? I'll tell you why. Because that particular person I knew well, and absolutely was the person at the back of the room with the whip. Absolutely was not leading from the front. Just wanted to say, look at this cool picture. This is me. No, you can't just show a graphic and say the best leaders lead from the front. The best leaders don't have to tell you that's what they're doing.
Right.
The best leaders have loyal people working with them because they don't feel they're working for them.
Right. And they put the team's needs ahead of their own.
Of course. And not just the team as a whole. Okay, so now you got me fired up, Anna. Now you got me fired up. Okay, so this is my worldview when it comes to what we're talking about. Okay. There are three kinds of health, basically. There's the health of the individual. Okay?
Right.
Very important to me. I don't even know you, but I care about you. Yeah, that sounds a little weird, but I do. Your health is important to me. Your physical health, your mental well-being, those things are important to me. So that's the health of Anna. right? If you're on my team, I need you to be healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, and if you're so inclined, spiritually. Okay. And that's
Absolutely.
none of my business how you do it, but it's great that you do it. And I want to tell you that you have that area that you need to take care of, and you come and tell me if there's something you need because you're not able to take care of one of those things in that area. Okay. Then there's the health of the team, right?
Yeah.
So the health of the team is a different kind of health. Are you pulling your weight for the team? Are you the one that's always late to meetings? Are you the one who says, I'm going to have 15 deals this month, every month, and every month delivers 4, right? Because you're not being realistic and you're not actually soliciting help by being honest and saying, I don't know what I'm going to do. I think, look at my past, I'm probably going to do 6, but I'm going to there. So who wants to help me? Hands up, right? And then there's the health of the company. And it's really important that people understand that as much as I love salespeople, at the end of the day, unless you're the top of that thing, we are just numbers on a spreadsheet to someone somewhere at some point. And so, but the health of the company is important, because if we're not doing what we're supposed to do as a team and delivering our team numbers, then maybe the company doesn't do well enough and they don't survive. Then more stress and anxiety and higher quotas and things that are harder to achieve and maybe measurable, but not necessarily achievable. And then that, gets into your personal life and you're feeling stressed out and overwhelmed and overworked.
Right.
And then, the whole thing comes crashing down. So those 3 kinds of health are super important to me.
Absolutely. I love that. I think that's like so spot on with how leadership needs to take the view from it just in general. So last question.
Would be nice. It would be nice.
It would be nice.
You know what they say? You know what they say? If wishes and butts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a wonderful Christmas.
Absolutely. So last
I wasn't
question.
Grandma. Hope you liked it. Go ahead.
Who do you look up to in the world of sales, and what do you believe makes them so successful?
Okay. I know people are waiting. What author is he going to say? What mind-blowing sales book is he going to mention? I'm going to mention someone you probably never heard of. I have a lot of people. I have a lot of people I look up to, but one of the people I look up to, I consider to be a personal mentor as well, just in general, is a gentleman by the name of Jesse Raines.
Okay.
Why?
Tell me about Jesse.
I'm going to tell you what it is that how he transformed some of the way I look at working and life and sales. And if he hears this ever, I mean, he might want to strangle me. But, I mean, whatever. I'm bigger than him anyway. So Jesse started out as a leader with a lot of people under him and the mental acumen to be able to do his job and function well enough. Over 3 years, I watched what I would consider an okay leader with the mental acumen to be able to do the job. And he became an outstanding leader, an outstanding sales leader. And the reason why is he had the humility to realize when what he was doing wasn't working and to change the way he was doing it. And the moment he started to do that, he started to get more and more buy-in from the people around him. He had buy-in from the people who were opportunistic. He had buy-in from the people that wanted something, meaning like, I'm ambitious, but he didn't have the buy-in of everybody else. He got the buy-in when he started to change the way he delivered his messages, change the message. He always had a big heart. So that's essential. He already had that. Mm-hmm. But he noticed what wasn't working and he changed his tune and he changed the way he was doing things. And by the end of that 3 years, I remember literally thinking about it to myself and going, wow, I just watched somebody become great. Like that's never happened in my life. I mean, I'd like to think someone would say that about me someday, but I watched someone become great in front of my own eyes. And, I'll always remember that and always use the stuff I learned during that transformative period to try to, remind people that there is nothing set in stone, right? There's great sales books out there. One of them makes me laugh because people always tell me to read it. And I'm like, the star of that book got like sued by everybody. So the way they were number one was by doing illegal practices. Just saying. You're not going to find it in a book. You're going to find it in your heart. You're going to find it
I love
by
that.
opening your mind and allowing things to come in. And to quote Shakespeare, I won't do the whole quote. To thine own self be true. Now, there's more to that quote, but what the point behind it isn't just that it's about being honest with yourself. The point of the quote is being so honest with yourself that you couldn't possibly lie if you wanted to.
Yeah, being able to honor your own abilities, being able to honor your own truth.
Honor your truth. Beautiful. Yeah. Well put. Yeah. Cool.
Absolutely. Well,
all right.
Jason,
what else you got?
Actually, that is all of the questions that I've got for you today, but I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. I love everything that you're preaching, and I really appreciate your perspective. So thanks so much.
Hold on one second. I got one more thing for you. And I'm sorry. I know you were trying to wind it up, but there's something that we need to talk about, Anna.
All right. What do we need to talk about, Jason?
There's a lot of salespeople out there.
There's
a lot of sales managers out there. There's a lot of administrators and operations people. There's a lot of people out there. So people, I'm talking to you now. If you feel sad, if you feel lonely, if you feel frightened, all of those things are okay. Big feelings for adults are okay, just like they're okay in kids. But mostly what I want to say to you is when you feel alone, you're not. And you have to remind yourself of that. And if you feel depressed, right? If you actually think you're feeling depressed, you need to find the strength to pick up the phone, text somebody, make that human connection, remind them that you're there, because you do have people that care about you, but you need to sometimes remind them because they're busy too that you're there. And it's okay, A, to ask for help, and B, and I'm begging all of you, I'm begging you when I say this. I don't like to beg. It feels weird, but I'm going to do it. I am begging you not to suffer in silence. If you are in emotional distress, reach out to somebody. There is always somebody. And hey, if you can't find anybody, find me on LinkedIn. I don't know. We'll carve out 10 minutes and I'll tell you why you matter.
Find me on LinkedIn.
Everybody deserves the right to feel cared for, useful, and important in this lifetime. That's Absolutely. It. No, I'm done. Now I'm done.
To quote Matt Haig in his comfort book, The Bottom of the Valley never has the clearest view. So exactly. I love that you said that. So again, thank you so much, Jason, for taking the time to be on Next in Sales. I think that this has been just an awesome conversation, and I really enjoyed the opportunity to connect with you. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you really enjoyed this conversation as much as Jason and I did. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.